I have a simple question. Who is the QB in the AFC and the NFC that's under the most pressure this year? Now, there's many different ways to define pressure. Pressure could mean you have to go out there and win a Super Bowl this year. Pressure could mean you're playing for your job or you're playing for a new contract extension. When people say the word pressure, it's very ambiguous because it's how the person defines pressure. And when I look at the AFC, I don't think there's a quarterback this year under more pressure than Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson in year one last year with the Broncos was a disaster. Nathaniel Hackett, we know, was a disaster as well. Nathaniel Hackett's now the OC of the Jets, no longer the head coach of the Broncos. They go out there, Denver, and get a Hall of Fame coach in Sean Payton. Now, Russell Wilson has run out of excuses. Where I need to see Russell Wilson show that he could be a good quarterback once again. And if he does not do that this year, I know there's a lot of dead cap for next year, so it'll be tough to move on. But then we start to put Russell Wilson in the conversation of guys who look like they were a lock to get in the Hall of Fame, and then he's playing for his Hall of Fame opportunity, his Hall of Fame bust. Because that's on the line these next few years. If Russell Wilson does not get back to just being a good quarterback, he could play himself out of the Hall of Fame. And now you bring in a new coach who we all know this is a coach that could win a Super Bowl in this league and is a highly respected coach. There's no more excuses for Russell Wilson. They use Nathaniel Hackett as an excuse. Part of it right, and then part of it kind of scapegoats Nathaniel Hackett and takes the pressure off of Russell Wilson. But I've never seen Russell Wilson or any quarterback, people that love someone so much, quickly fade and quickly turn on a guy as quickly as people have turned on Russell Wilson. Like, think about this for a second. Russell Wilson, up until last year, everyone liked Russ. Everyone was a fan of Russ, besides if you were some of those defensive players in the Seahawks, but I'm talking about fans. And then all of a sudden, this year, we almost all took joy in Russell Wilson's failures. So for Russell Wilson this year, it's not only what you're playing for to eventually get in the Hall of Fame, but it's also to win the respect and the trust of the people back. Because that is a thing here, where as quickly as people turned on Russ, they'll go back in and support Russ if he's not the punchline to every joke. And I look at that Broncos team defensively, they're solid. Defensively, they're really damn good. But offensively, I don't trust that offensive line. Javonte Williams is coming off a big injury. Wide receivers, outside of Jerry Jeudy, and I don't even love Jerry Jeudy, is there anyone you really trust entering the year of 2023? So I look at Russell Wilson. Now you got a much better coach. Now you have to hold up your end of the bargain. And we'll see if Russell Wilson can do that this year. When I go to the NFC, it's tricky because the AFC, there's so many big names. You could talk Lamar, you could talk Aaron Rodgers, you could talk Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, in terms of guys that are under pressure. But in the NFC, I go to one name, and that's Dak. Dak Prescott, the last 2 years, should have found a way to get the Cowboys to the NFC title game in one of those years. His defense, twice, up against San Francisco, once in the wild card round, once in the divisional round, did their job and then some. And the last 2 years, the Cowboys season has come to a close with Dak not being able to get the ball snapped in the wild card game, or the offense not showing up and Dak being atrocious in that divisional round when everything was right there to have an NFC championship game in South Philadelphia, Cowboys up against the Eagles. I could give you like the 49er quarterback position. And I could talk Kirk Cousins when I talk about the NFC, Jared Goff. But I look at Dak, there's no more excuses here. You look at that defense, it's loaded. Offensively, you have CeeDee Lamb. You have Michael Gallup. You have Brandon Cooks. You have Tony Pollard whenever he does come back. The offensive line is not as great as it once was, but it's fine. Zach Martin, with that contract situation, squared away and checked off. For Dak Prescott this year, he can be the reason why the Cowboys don't find a way to get to an NFC title game for the first time since 1995. But he can't be, if that makes sense. Like, I don't believe that'll end up being that guy. But if he can't answer the call this year, then it just further solidifies that the Cowboys just are overpaying the quarterback. They'll give him a new contract. You have a good quarterback, but not a great quarterback. And 9 times out of 10, you need a great quarterback in this league to go hold that shiny Lombardi trophy at the end of the year. So I look at the AFC and the NFC. Right now, Russell Wilson, for me, is the quarterback in the AFC that's under the most pressure. And in the NFC, it's Dak Prescott. Samter, let me open this up to you. Give me a quarterback or two that you think is under an enormous amount of pressure entering this season.
So you named both of my guys as reasons why they're not as under pressure as the rest of them, but I think Justin Herbert is under significantly more pressure than Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is looking at legacy, right? I get it. And legacy matters. But he has a contract. He's got a new coach. He's not going anywhere. He's got a Super Bowl. He is what he is. And I understand he has legacy. Justin Herbert legitimately has everything on the line for himself right now, right?
Well, he just got paid.
He got paid, but now you have to make that contract matter.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
And he has done everything as far as looking great on the field, but he just cannot win those big games yet. He has not, and it's not necessarily his fault, but when you have Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and all those other guys, but eventually he's going to have to break through because he's either going to become one of those like Dan Marino type guys or Dan Fouts, if you talk about the Chargers.
Phillip Rivers,
full of talent, full of promise, full of ability and stats, but just never getting that win. And if you never get that win, whether it's a Super Bowl or even making the Super Bowl, Justin Herbert is just going to go by the wayside with all those other great, talented, arm strength guys who did nothing in this league.
So here's what I'll say about Herbert. I think some people that question him in the playoffs, it's too premature because he's only had one playoff game, and I know it was a embarrassing defeat. The thing about Herbert where I think you're right and wrong is, yes, Herbert's under pressure because you have a window of this really good team when you have Austin Eckler, you got Mike Williams, you got Keenan Allen, you got Joey Bosa, Derwin James, J.C. Jackson. They just drafted Quentin Johnston out of TCU. Like, they got a lot of pieces there. Khalil Mack. But you know what will always save Justin Herbert for the immediate future? Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley being there. Because if they crap the bed in a game, people dislike Staley so much, including me as a head coach, they'll be like, get rid of Brandon Staley. It'll be similar to where, even though Russell Wilson's more advanced, where Russ was last year, where, yes, there's a lot of reasons to criticize Russell Wilson, but at the end of the day, people were going to go after Nathaniel Hackett first. So that's why I think you're onto something with Herbert, but we may need to wait like 2 or 3 more years to really get into the Justin Herbert conversation. Anyone else you got on your list?
Now, in the NFC, you also mentioned his name. Now, listen, I think that Dak is probably facing the most pressure, but there's a team that everybody is going crazy with. This the offseason darling of the NFL. People are rooting for them. People have expectations. We just saw a former quarterback say they're a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah.
It's the Detroit Lions.
And their coach drinks a lot of coffee, by the way, and so do I. And I had a little coffee spillage before the show. I don't know if people could see it on YouTube, but I got a little coffee stain right here.
Yeah, coffee, sure. But
I have a black guy's coffee every day. What else do you think's on my chest? I'm not Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah, right.
Remember those rumors?
That team is talented everywhere you look, right? Whether it's at wide receiver, running back, offensive line might be the best in the NFL. The defense is better. They won 7 games last year. The only question mark really is Jared Goff, the Jared Goff that led the Rams to the Super Bowl, the one who looked great last year, or the Jared Goff who couldn't complete a pass downfield for more than 15 yards. If he is a legitimate NFL quarterback, he's going to lead this team to 10 or more wins and into the playoffs for a win or 2. If he is not, then this might be the end for Jared Goff. So he has his career on the line, and there's no more pressure than that.
And I know he has a few more years left on his deal, but remember, no extension yet for Jared Goff. And they also drafted Hendon Hooker. Stu, you got a quarterback or two?
Yeah, I think in the AFC for me, it's Aaron Rodgers. We spent weeks and months talking about, is he going to retire? Is he going to go back to the Packers? Is he going to go somewhere else? And then ever since he's been traded to the Jets, we've been talking about Rodgers pretty much every single day. We have the Hard Knocks showing a spotlight on him and the team. people thinking they could be Super Bowl contenders. So I think it's Rodgers put up or shove time for him.
And would you agree with this bare minimum for Rodgers? They got to get to an AFC title game this year? Bare minimum, if you're a Jet fan, to walk away saying, okay, I could at least be somewhat happy with this season.
Yeah, there's so much hype. If anything less, I feel like you're going to be disappointed as a Jets fan.
Anyone in the NFC for you?
I think Justin Fields. I
like that.
I would go Prescott, but if we're being different here, I think Justin Fields in that third year, he's kind of put expectations on himself, saying that he could throw for 4,000 yards. So Justin Fields in his third year, I think it's kind of that year where he has to, take a big step and prove that he was the top 15 pick.
And I like Fields. I don't know if I love Fields yet. And what I'm scared about with Fields is so many people are hyping him up this year, where I just wonder, are the expectations starting to get out of hand a little bit for Justin Fields when you also look at the construction of that roster, which got improved this offseason, and you bring in a guy like DJ Moore, but improving the Bears is not that tough of a thing to do from where they were a year ago with the roster that they had.